Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we're going into r/entitled parents, where some parents are absolute entitled assholes. Now, do a like and subscribe if you don't mind. Maybe leave a comment down below and let's get started. First, we got a two-part story. Am I the a-hole for taking $900 and leaving? Part 1 of question mark. This is going to be a long story that takes about 4 years and is continuing. For some backstory, I moved cross country with my stepmom to support her with her job back in early 2019 before COVID. When I got a job, she made sure that my direct deposit went into an account that she could monitor and apply to bills. I was new to most things and just wanted to help out and offer to help pay off her credit card debt. I've always been a people pleaser and thought I was helping, so I wasn't too concerned at the time that I wasn't allowed to see how much money I had at any time or what my money was going to. She has always been very in control of everything, so I didn't think it was weird. Things continued for about a year until my older stepsister got pregnant and my stepmom moved across the country. She said it would only be a couple of months so she could help my sister get settled with the baby. A couple months turned into over 2 years, going on 3 now. I still went to work every day, and every time I asked how much money I had, she would say, "Enough for Uber and groceries." I don't know how to drive, so I couldn't go anywhere other than work and home. I became paranoid about how much money I had at any time, and started walking almost 2 hours to and from work to save money. Eventually, we did get me moved to where my dad had been living during this time. The majority of the stuff was moved to when my stepmom is because we were planning on moving there. My dad was taking care of Grandma, who at that time had breast cancer. She unfortunately passed away, and that's a partial reason why I was moved with my dad to help with the grief. In the time I lived with my dad, I started talking to my birth mom more often over the phone. She and my little sister came for a surprise visit about a week after I moved in with my dad. We started talking more often, and we eventually got to the topic of money. I transferred to a different location, so I still had a job when I moved. My mom did some digging and asked if I knew my credit score. I told her I shouldn't have one as I don't use credit cards. She did some digging and it turns out I have 3 credit cards, a couple of loan inquiries, and a few other things I wasn't aware of. Apparently Credit Karma can tell you a lot more than just your credit score. With more digging, we found out my stepmom was the one who opened the cards and has been using them without letting me know. I was so confused and scared about what I was supposed to do. My mom and I discussed what to do, and she offered to take me in so I could start over and have my own bank account and help me get on my feet. She even offered to help me with learning how to drive, make doctor's appointments, and how to manage money. A couple weeks later, she taught me over the phone how to check and how much money was in my account at an ATM. My stepmom was immediately notified that the ATM checked the account and she yelled at me for it. I was 21 at the time, being told that I didn't need to know how much I had. Around October, I made a very big decision. I checked the account. It was at $600. Okay, I'll wait for my next paycheck to go in and just take my paycheck out. I checked my pay stub and decided to take the majority of the paycheck, $900 out of $1,025, so there'll still be a little bit in the account. The next day, before I checked the account again, and only $200 was in the account. Weird. My check went in the next day, and I took out $900 and started an account at the local bank. I told my dad that I made the bank account and was going to be moving in with my mom. He was okay with it and understood. He doesn't know most of the story. He is a trucker and is only home a couple days a week. Next part linked in the comments. Part 2. I don't get to keep my $900. The second part of the story. My stepmom called my dad, telling me I took my check out of the account. She was furious and accused me of trying to escape bills. Mind you, these were bills I wasn't informed I was paying. She demanded I explain myself, and when I told her I created a bank account for myself so I could manage money by myself. After about an hour of arguing, I was pressured into putting $400 back into the account to pay bills. The account previously had $600 a few days ago. Before that suddenly turned back into $200. So that means she needed $1,000 out of my money in total. I don't know why, but it's something my birth mom and I are figuring out. After that, she ordered me to break my card to the previous account. I was going to, but then she suddenly changed her mind and made me give it to my dad to mail to her. She was even angrier when I informed her that I would be moving out, and she was demanding I pay her $400 monthly for the moving truck. $3,000 that has all our combined stuff. My birth mom told me not to agree to any of her terms, and asked for an itemized list and receipts for these so-called bills. I did so, and haven't received any sort of bills yet. In total, the entire ordeal from finding out to moving out took about a month, and I had only been living with my dad for 2 months. There is unfortunately a massive bedbug infestation that is massively out of control of my stepmom, who is in control of all the household money, refuses to hire an exterminator or call for professional help. Probably because she doesn't live in the house with my dad. I moved in with my mom, with only the clothes on my back and my dog at my side. All my previous belongings are currently half the country away until she either sends them to me or destroys them. My dad knows nothing about what's going on, and I don't know how to tell him. The biggest reason I haven't told my dad is because I'm fairly certain my stepmom doesn't love him, and as soon as he gets involved, he'll be dropped. She has an iron grip on his income, as well as only allows him a weekly allowance for groceries, and that's it. My mom is in contact with a lawyer, and we're figuring things out. It's slow moving, but things are getting better. It's going slowly, but it's getting better. Thank you for reading. I will update if there ends up being more. Edit. This post is not an update post. It's a continuation of what was already happening, and nothing happened between posts. I want to make something else clear. All of this stuff in both posts happened months ago and are not recent. Nothing happened between posts. I just ran out of time to write the second part. We are already dealing with it legally. I appreciate the advice, but it's being handled, and I do have plans to talk to my dad about what happened. My dad is willingly giving his paycheck to her. That's just one hell of a situation. Good luck, OP. Honestly, you're gonna need it. For our next story, we've got grandfather chokes me and threatens to off me, and all of my parents are in support of that. This was last Saturday, 6 days ago. My parents leave me at my house since they both go to work. They're both over their 40s, but my father still lived with his parents, 'cause he's a neat god and knows what he does at his office, since he never tells or gives a specific salary back. We have this tradition of sleeping during the afternoon, 3 to 5 p.m., and my exams were going on, so I decided to screen time for a bit, then study during the afternoon. But my grandmother, who has a history of beating me with a stick and telling me to off myself since I was a kid, tells me to sleep, and when I refuse, she cuts the internet wire and hit me. So I try to block it, and fight breaks out, so my grandfather comes in. I quietly turn off my laptop and sit ready for a beating, and I still have one of those scars on my right eye. He even tries to choke me and off me, also threatens to off me, and I get left sobbing alone in my room. My grandfather hits me whenever he's angry. Once, I accidentally spilled some sauce on the table, and he hit me for that too when my parents arrived. They scolded and blamed me for everything, but I was too traumatized to listen. My mother has always obeyed the others, so no matter what. Like the other day, my father was screaming at her for giving me a cup of noodles in the freaking cup instead of a steel cup. And he beat me because I shouted back at him to shut up because I was studying that day. And my mother said it was my fault. He also beat me with a belt just because I wasn't socializing with my relatives. My grandfather also hid my laptop, which I found on the first try. Lol. And my grandfather has a tendency to use my laptop that I got as a present from my uncle for some stock work, so he basically just stole it and hid it. I also found on the first try. I should become a detective. And also finally got the confidence to call the child line 4 days after the incident. But it wasn't a help. The person I talked to was an old man, and he just told me to tell my parents, which I just can't. And now the only thing I can do is post here with my laptop, hiding in a safe place, and post it, here to cope with everything that has just happened. Holy shit. And for our last story, we've got my in-laws see dollar signs and people who do stuff for them when looking at their kids. Some not so quick background. I've been with my husband for about 10 years. About to come up on our 6-year marriage anniversary in a couple months. His parents have always been extremely selfish. When I met him, he was 22 and living with his parents. At that time, he was making $14 an hour and was giving them his entire paycheck. He also, with no credit, had gone on a car loan with his mom with a mid-400 credit score so they could get a car, since after her 2 prior repos was the only way they could get a car. He had been living with them and giving them his entire paycheck for about 2 years when I met him. We met and were committed. Right away. He literally moved in after our first date, but didn't stop giving them his entire paycheck. I remember one time his shoes had crudded out for work and he needed $40 to get a pair. So he called Dad and asked if he could use $40 of his own paycheck. His dad's response? To yell at him about family finances in front of some random person, that would be me. I, who was making $13 an hour at the time, had to buy him the new shoes so he could go to work. This sort of thing went on for 3 months before I got angry. I was paying for all of my bills, food, cost of living expenses, and all of his. I told him he could either cut the leash to his parents or he could go home and get over me. I knew they had relied on his money for a while, so I even told him he could give them 6 months more, but after that, if things didn't change, I was kicking his butt to the curb. And well, he chose me. He told his mom, but didn't tell his dad because that man has the temperament of a 5-year-old after drinking 2 gallons of sugar. So after 9 months of living with me and paying for everything, he stopped putting his paycheck in his mom's account. His dad called, freaking out that he had moved out with a word that is derogatory for women that I won't say on YouTube. Don't demonetize me, please. Keep in mind, they had no problem with us living together as long as they got his paycheck. His parents told his sister I was a horrible woman and wanted them all to starve. We talked about his little sisters, who were then at the time all under 18, moving in with us. We said if they got evicted, they could live with us, and not the parents. At the time, he was 22 and I was 20. We helped them pay for their vehicle for another year so it wouldn't hurt his credit. 4 months after we couldn't afford that $665 payment for a brand new vehicle with $29.99 and no down payment, the car got repoed. This made it harder to get into an apartment complex after that. It was the only thing stopping us from getting a house 4 years ago. Well, after a little over a year of them borrowing money and never paying it back, I gave him another decision. He could stay with me and stop lending them money, or he could move back in with his parents. He chose me again. For a while, they stopped asking for money because they knew they wouldn't get it. About 2 years ago, they started asking again. It was a small amount, $5 to $20, and my husband would lend it out of his personal money, so I didn't say anything. Well, 3 months ago, we found out we qualify for a house. We have a decent amount of debt, so the mortgage broker said, under no circumstances are we going to be able to add to the debt if we want to keep the dream alive. His parents know this and went out of our way to tell them so. We also told them that all of our money is tied up in getting our house, and we can't lend them even a penny. Not true, but they never paid back like the $50 they owed my husband, so he wanted an excuse to not lend to them. Well, a couple weeks ago, he was laid off, and last week we found out we have the V. His parents know this all. His youngest sister, the one they are currently mooching off of, told them since she was going to move in with us on Sunday. Since they are getting evicted, the deal was that my daughter and my parents would split money rent 6 months, and they haven't given $1 of the $1,500 rent, or paid for their own food. Even with her working 2 jobs, she couldn't afford it. Do they call him to ask him how he's doing from job loss or having COVID? Nope, they call him because they want him to finance something in his name since they can't get approval. He tells them no, and they hang up on him. 5 minutes later, I look up at him, and he is visibly upset, and he asks me, "Am I a bad son?" These people knew his boundaries. He hasn't heard from them in at least 4 years, unless it's for money or needing a ride. The last kid who financed the vehicle for them also got repossessed for non-payments. And here my husband is feeling terrible from the V and getting laid off from a job he loved. And are his parents calling to see how he's doing with that? No, they want money. I'm sure I could pull a million stories out of my hat, but seeing my husband's face when he asked that question, let's just say the reason we're moving 4 hours away isn't for the cheaper housing like we told them. And that's the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed these stories. Remember to get yourself a nice treat to calm down from these infuriating, entitled parents. You deserve it. And maybe like and subscribe and leave a comment so my video can get seen by more people on YouTube. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Hasta la pasta.